G'day everybody and welcome back to another exciting episode of Spitting Bricks with Jono. I'm here with Dawn from Season 2 of United States Lego Masters. Welcome, Dawn.
Thank you, Jono. It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Happy Valentine's Day. It's Valentine's Day here in New Zealand today. So
Thank
happy
you.
Valentine's
And
Day.
happy pre-Valentine's Day here from us.
True, because it's the 13th over there, am I right?
Yeah.
These time zones, it's hard to get my head around sometimes.
Yeah, you guys live in the future, so that's okay.
Oh, it's all right. There's a saying in LA. It's like, don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about today. It's already tomorrow in New Zealand.
Right.
That's what I've heard anyway. So yeah, Lego Masters. What an exciting thing, right? So how did you first get into Lego?
Well, we always had creative things in our house growing up, including Lego, which were, at that time, it was the boys' toys, type of thing. But that didn't stop me from creating with it, making things, and so it was usually my brother's Lego, but what he didn't know wouldn't hurt him. But we built, and so it was just kind of one thing led to another. It didn't last when I was younger. We went on, and you grow up, you do your teenage things and college things, and got married. And then once my kids got old enough, we got them into the Lego, and those Lego are mixed in now with my bricks here. So it's part of my inventory now. It's like my husband says, "Oh, you need to sell those or give them away," and I'm like, "Nope."
No, they're too valuable to give away, and there's too many memories attached to them.
Yes.
Is there a particular set or something that you remember from childhood that you like?
Well, when I was growing up, we didn't have the multitude of colors, the parts. We had really basic things. We had roof slopes, and we had bricks, and 5 or 6 colors, I think. So what I would do mostly,
basic Lego, yep,
yeah, the basic Lego. What's considered now classic Lego. And I don't want to be called a classic, but that's okay. Yeah. I guess that's better than the other things they could call me.
It could be vintage, right? It could be worse,
right? But I would do things. I had Barbie dolls, so I would build a house for my Barbies out of Lego. The typical thing that you would do. Kind of a crossover between the boys' toy and the girls' toy that back then. So
yeah. So, how was your experience on Lego Masters?
I answer this question a lot as like, if you can imagine every emotion you've ever experienced in your life, put them all into that one time frame.
I say the same thing. It's funny how the similarities. I pretty much say, yeah, there was blood, sweat, tears, every single emotion under the sun. It was
exactly.
So, how did the participating in the show change you, or how did it change your view of Lego?
I've always thought of it as a creative process, a creative tool, but I think now I see it more as an artistic tool. It's basically a reusable, my sister calls it a reusable art medium.
Yeah, it's like a sandcastle.
Yeah, exactly. Like you just you build what you want, you can make changes to it, and when you're done with it, you can build something else that you want.
It's iterative and non-destructive in the process.
Right.
Yeah. I was thinking about this with a friend of mine. There are very few art forms and one of the things I've been doing lately is recreating some Māori sculptures. And of course, I was talking to one of the artists about it, and I said, it's a very different process. I said, you take a piece of wood and you remove everything that isn't the art. Whereas I take nothing and I put the art there.
Right.
There are very few artistic mediums that are so iterative and recyclable, I guess.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you can take paint off a thing and do a different color, whereas you can take a brick off and put it,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, how has your Lego building style evolved since the show? Like, I always talk about it like it's like going to an intense Lego boot camp.
Yes, and that's a good description. That is a very good description, because I was very creative to begin with, and that's kind of, I guess, why I got on the show, which helps. You kind of need that. But I've fine-tuned a lot of things since then.
Yeah.
I've had the experience, not necessarily of being on Lego Masters, but the experience with getting my hands on the brick even more. I think I feel I am a much better builder now than I was before I was on the show.
I think before I was on the show, I think I would spend a long time fussing over little things and, spend a long time being meticulous on details that people wouldn't notice. And then being on the show, I got used to A, building big, and B, building quick, and just just roughshotting it and kind of making it up really as I go and just committing.
Yeah.
Because I think beforehand I would doodle and I would procrastinate and I would put it down and I'd come back and, it'd be like this ongoing thing. Whereas on the show, you don't have time for that.
No, exactly. And I think I was kind of the same way. I'd work on something and a couple days later I'd come back, or who knows how long before I would come back to it. And now I feel like I have to get it done like there's a clock hanging over me. There is no clock hanging over me unless I'm getting ready to go to a convention.
Yeah, well, I've done that a few times. And most of the time I have to travel because where I live, we've only just started doing Lego shows. It's our third one in about a month, third year. Whereas the Lego shows have been running like for a decade elsewhere. So all other shows I've had to travel to. So there's been a deadline. No more productive minute like the last minute, I say.
Yeah, well then in traveling with Lego is a whole other thing.
Keeping it in one piece.
Yes, or making
it 2 pieces as possible.
So you can compartmentalize it and put it back together quickly, not as long as it took you to build the first time.
Yeah, it's what I enjoy about going to New Zealand shows is that a lot of the people, they end up traveling as well, and you find some really cool techniques about how they manage to stack them or push them or get them to line up, and you're like, oh, I'm going to borrow that till next time.
Right. Yep.
So what's your approach to start building? Do you just pick up bricks? Do you do sketches? Do you do it digitally?
I've done a little bit of everything.
Yep.
When actually I was still participating in some online challenges while I was filming Lego Masters. So on the weekend, on one day we had off, I would build digitally and submit that into my challenges because I didn't want anybody to know that there was anything different going on in my life, because you're not supposed to let them know, So,
oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also was doing the daily brick limit challenge, and I was doing it for the whole year at that point. So I was doing it every day. So I pre-built some of the stuff. I had some Lego stuff that I took with me, and I was just kind of like randomly coming up with stuff, but I was posting every day, even while we were filming for that.
You're a machine.
And then I did do you can't see it in here, but I've got a large sunflower project that I did.
I've seen that online. It's very, very beautiful.
Thank you. If I turn my thing here, you can see it in the background. There it is.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. It was on display a couple of months ago, was it? Or a few weeks ago?
Yeah. In September, it was in an international art competition here in Michigan. And a couple of years ago, it was in an fine art museum in Texas.
Wow.
Oh, it's
fine art museum. Wonderful.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and so it's been various places, but that one I did do a sketch, but my sketch was so rudimentary. It was a piece of paper with a rectangle and a circle for the center flower, and everything else was like, I'm gonna wing it.
You're gonna start somewhere, right?
Yeah, and I was playing with techniques, sitting in front of the TV and things like that, just trying to come up with some ideas before I could actually put the brick on. But other than that, it's I have to get my hands in the bricks. That's pretty much how I build.
Yeah, me too. I like that sound. You can't go past that sound. So can you describe a build that was particularly challenging for you and on the show, and can you describe how you overcome it?
Well, we only had a few builds on ours that we were able to participate in, and they both had their own unique challenges. The first one was we had to show motion, and that was something that was very new to me. Very new to me. I could get the lights to flicker, like I had a random light flicker, but getting something to move was the challenge. And we had to do a couple pivots, but we were able to still figure it out. It just took longer than it should have. And then I came home after once we were eliminated later on, I came home and actually had to prove to myself that I could do it.
Right.
It didn't matter to anybody else. It had nothing to do with the show anymore. This was for me to know that it might have taken me a long time anyway, but I could do it, And then the other was sometimes telling the story. I could build anything.
Yeah.
To make it tell a story was always a challenge. And that was a big thing that they really stressed on Lego Master.
Yeah, they really do. It's amazing. One of my favorite stories. So becoming Lego famous has actually been really wonderful. I remember years ago I saw this picture online and it had You've probably seen it. It's a 1x4 brick in yellow, and it's a competition thing, and it's got Riley Worm,
Worm,
right?
yes.
You know it. Well, I managed to, because I got Lego famous on the internet, I managed to find the person who was at the store, the Lego store, the day that Riley came in and built that. So what they had an exhibition, and there's a pile of yellow bricks, and Riley had spent a good part of an hour or so just sitting in the corner building things and then putting them apart and building things and putting them apart and then by the time they left, the store guy says, the mother had said, "Are you going to leave anything?" And he stuck that single thing up and wrote "worm."
Worm.
And I was
That's
like, "Oh,
wonderful.
bless him. That's wonderful." Like, because that's a story in one brick.
Right.
One brick tells a
One brick
story,
is
and
awesome. Yes, I've seen that.
it's just one brick, one word. And that's the beauty of Lego, is that you can give someone 2 bricks, and there's like a dozen ways of putting them together. You give them 6 bricks, there's like millions of ways of putting them together. And of course, everybody's brain is so vastly different. You get such different results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love it. So, where do you draw your inspiration from? Do you from nature, from pop culture, from architecture? What inspired? Obviously, you got the flowers, so that's very naturey.
Right. I'm gonna say yes. It's basically
All of
I
them.
draw inspiration from everything around me. I have so many screenshots on my phone as I'm scrolling through pictures. It's like, ooh, ooh, ooh,
Yeah, yeah. You've
We
got
were
okay. You've got one of those as well. Then it's not just me.
yes, yeah. And my husband and I, we were driving through Indiana, and I'm like, can we go around the block and go past this building again?
Ah,
I need to take a picture of this building.
architecture. I just sit there and study it and go, well, I would use that brick, and then I'd use that one, and then I
Yes.
could put that brick on its side, and that would look like that.
Yeah, so I mean, and I was in Seattle. My sister lives in Seattle, and I've took several pictures of like the Google building, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it tells me it needs to be, and I'm sure somebody's already done it, but it needs to be made out of Lego, just the way the building is. I'm like, oh my gosh. And there were buildings when last year, my husband and I went down to Australia and we went to Prevention, and some of the buildings there, I'm just like, I've got one on my digital frame that comes up that is like, make this. I don't know what building it is, but I have to make it.
So when you're going about doing something larger, how did you find to balance the creativity with like the structural integrity? Like trying to, I'm building at scale. It's really tricky.
Yes, it is tricky. I have had some success and some not success with that. We'll get to that part later. But I have discovered, and I'm working on something now for Brickworld Chicago, where I've got an integral Technic framework. That way it's not taking up too much filler brick. It's not too heavy to move, but I can put things together, so that's, and then trying to cover it and make it look organic, make it look like I want it to look, becomes the next challenge. And that's usually the easiest part. For me, the structural integrity is usually the more difficult part. So most of my things are small in that reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it's easier. Well, I've found just taking going to a show and just having a stack of small stuff that I can spread out over a couple of tables. It's just easier in the long run because they seem to manage to remain in one piece more.
Right. Yep.
So, what was the most memorable moment for you during Lego Masters?
I thought about that, and there are two that really will always be with me. And the first one was actually I checked into the hotel. I got into Atlanta, checked into the hotel, went up to the floor where my room was, and in the doorway next to my room was Moto, who I knew from online. Michael Kanemoto is his, and Moto from my season now. And it's just, I knew him from an online group that we were part of. And I was just so excited. I mean, I expected him to be there, but just seeing him in person was just so exciting. That was just like one of the most wonderful things that could have happened, And then the other one was actually when we first walked onto the set. Mm-hmm. They open the doors and we all walk in, and the awe of the fact that this is a real place. Well, it's a sound studio, but it really exists.
It's
we were place, here. Yeah, it's real.
Yeah.
But we were there.
Yeah.
We were actually physically in that place that because we'd seen season 1, we had seen it
Yeah, yeah,
existed. You
yeah,
know, and the expressions on our faces and the tears of joy on all of our
yeah,
faces is just,
yeah.
those were real. Those were,
Uh,
that was exactly it.
You kind of help. I can't have. I feel like Charlie from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yes.
You just walk in and go, oh, wow,
I know.
everything I've ever wanted in one place.
Yeah.
Look at all those bricks. There weren't enough bricks.
No, there's never enough bricks.
So, how did you handle the pressure of the time constraints?
Because while they're shouting, the time calls and things like that, and you're thinking, oh, hours. In a way, it sounds like a long time, but
Yeah,
it's not.
no.
If you get down and figuring, you have to build something made for TV.
Yeah,
That's the first thing. You're not building something small like this, You're building something made for TV. And you have to be on the same page with your partner and things like that.
yep.
It just that. But by the time we got to about 1 hour left, we were putting finishing touches, just little nuances on it that nobody probably will ever see. And I know somebody didn't see some of them because we forgot to mention them. but it was like, there were times at the very end, it's like we were scraping extra parts off of our build table to get cleaned up, So
Yeah.
we didn't seem to have as much problem with time constraints, but we did not have any major fails during our build either. And that may make it different.
So, were there any behind the scenes moments or interactions with the other contestants or judges or something that you find particularly memorable?
Right. Well, I'm going to say the biggest thing that was very special to me was that when Jack and I were eliminated and we get sent off into a different area than all the other contestants because they don't want the contestants dealing with, with all that after they're done saying goodbye and everything. And we were off there, and Jen from Jen and Susan, the team, she made an excuse to get her hair. She had to have something done with her hair or makeup or whatever. And so she came upstairs where we were. She asked me if she could wear my Kelsey bracelet, which is something that Jack and I wore specifically to honor our great niece.
Mm.
And that was hard because I'm like, this is very special to me,
Yeah.
But she wanted to wear it in the next episode.
Mm.
And so I gave it to her. I said, just make sure I get it back. So she wore it in the next episode, and all but one of the rest of the episodes on that season, somebody was wearing my Kelsey bracelet.
Wow.
And I never knew
that's
who.
so sweet.
Yeah, I never knew who because they passed it around.
Right.
So somebody always wore it. The last episode, Wayne wore it from Zach and Wayne, the brothers from California.
Yeah.
And then Wayne mailed it to me after they'd gotten home. And so I have it back. But it was just like, it meant so much to me. And I watched every episode after we were eliminated.
Yeah.
But I just never knew who had it. And so it was just always like,
Did you see it? Did you see it on their wrist?
I saw it in every episode except for the one that I knew wardrobe said no.
Oh, okay.
Yes. But after that, it got worn, and so they just kind of let them go with it.
That's fantastic.
So that was very special. And I would post at the during the show, it's like, did you see who's wearing it today? This episode and blah blah blah. It's just like it was wonderful. So special that we just all came together over just something very simple, the bracelet. But it meant so much to us. It meant so much to Kelsey's mom, and Kelsey's grandma, who's my sister. She was watching with me on one of the episodes. I had to pause the TV and said, "Did you see this?"
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
I'm already crying. Never mind.
Yeah, right. Let's talk. Let's now. So what role do you think Lego plays in fostering creativity and problem solving in our children and in our adults?
Well, it's a great math tool. There's so many ways of using it in math, and I've seen where people have used it to create a wheelchair ramp where a store is not accessible. And so they only needed a lip 3 inches tall, but there was a lip, and so it was a barrier, and somebody created a wheelchair ramp. So there's all kinds of things that you can use it for.
I love when you see on the internet someone's like there's a person that goes around filling up little corners of people's buildings and stuff with Lego.
Right.
It's some really cool, really it's so inspiring to see what people come up with.
It is.
So so have you noticed any positive effects on your mental health while playing with Lego?
Oh yes, I can come down mental and physical because I can come down. My bedroom's in the basement, and I can come down here, and I'll do stuff, and 3 hours later, it's like, oh, I haven't had breakfast yet, or it's like, and I'm not hungry because my brain is occupied. It's not
Yeah.
my brain is not sitting back here thinking you didn't eat, you didn't eat, you didn't eat. It's being creative, and it's just because the creativity has run in my family, brings my family to me, even if they're not here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. I feel that. So since the show, what kind of what Lego community post show things do you
A lot. How long have we got?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I've always been doing things, some of the online challenges. I'm now also on staff for Brick World.
Okay.
I do a lot of their expos that they have around the Midwest. Not
So
just
Brickworld's in Chicago.
Brick World Chicago is the big convention, but they also have expos
Oh, okay.
in various cities
I've
around
got plans
Midwest.
to come to this year's Brickworld Chicago.
I'm excited.
Yeah. I need the universe to align, and then I'll be there. But it's a few months away, so I've got a bit of time.
Yep.
It's gonna. Yeah, I might have to start a GoFundMe.
Right. That's kind of how I was when we went to Brickvention. It's like, okay, let's clear around the world.
Like, do I want to sell some Lego? No.
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 So I work a lot with there's an interactive city build, which is based loosely on the Friends Apartments, where you build 8x16 apartments and they stack up, and we build these towers.
Yeah.
So we have
participated in one of those before.
Yeah. So we've got the kids coming and the adults, and they will come, and it's like you can build an apartment, put a minifigure in, and we add the stack, and so the city is huge.
Wow.
So I help do that, and like I said, I've done a lot of online challenges. Right now, we're working on the Valentine's Challenge, Habitats Challenge.
Yes. I haven't yet to compete at Habitats, but those Habitats look really cool. There's a couple of really talented builders that do, and they just keep expanding them and expanding them, and it's like.
Yes, I'm inspired. They inspire me to want to be a better builder. Type of thing, And I've been to several West Coast conventions from the United States. Been to BrickCon, Bricks Cascade. Yeah. I've been to Brick Rodeo in Texas. I have not made it to BrickCan. That's a possibility at some point because my sister lives in Seattle, which is where BrickCon is. And then I know she's driven up a couple different times to go to BrickCan, and we may do that at one point. But Robin, the judge from New Zealand, from Canada, the Canadian judge for New Zealand.
He was the first ever Lego certified professional.
Yes. And he was at he was at BrickCon, one of the first ones I was at, so I got to meet him.
Nice.
So I've met him, and I've met the Brickman when I was just the opportunity that it's afforded me, it opens doors, and I just have to push my way through.
Yeah, build a bridge.
Exactly.
So where was I? Okay, so if I would imagine you get lots of potential young Lego masters come running up to you saying, how did you do it? What advice would you give a potential Lego master for going on the show?
Tell them, and I've had people come up to me. I actually had one young girl when I was in a convention in Nebraska, and she came up and says, will you come and critique my mock? And I'm like, I'm sure it's fine. I like to be very positive, and it was wonderful, and she says, well, I understand. I know I need to do this and need to do that. And so I just kind of reiterated that, and I gave her a couple small things, but it's like, it was wonderful, and I just wanted to keep encouraging people that you're your worst critic.
Oh, yeah.
You are your own worst critic.
Yep.
And there's times where I've put something online, and it's like, what did I just do?
Yeah.
Why did I put that out there? But but it gets a wonderful response, and it's like, all right, I can see, but then I want to go back and do it better. You can always, because it's Lego, you can always go back and change it.
I
And I
find
think,
one of George Lucas's ideas. He says art is never finished; it's only ever abandoned. And then he went back and revisited Star Wars and ruined
yeah,
it. Han shot first, right? No, so yeah, I hear that. I mean, it's what I really liked about Lego Masters was the deadline. Because once the timer was over, it was done, and like I could sit there and procrastinate and work and work and work and continue, but I had to finish it, and it was a really nice to have that deadline, even though it was stressed and panicky and oh my god, am I going to get there? But have that deadline was really helpful
yeah,
in the
it's
creation
there,
process.
and yeah, and then you have afterwards, you're like, well, there's your woulda, coulda, shouldas, and your everything else, but that's just you. It's out there. It's what it is. It's done.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So, have you used Lego in any educational settings or workshops or things like that?
I've done workshop. Well, I've done a couple workshops. We worked on some brick bending at a workshop that
Oh,
I
yeah,
did here in a.
that's quite
Yes,
fun.
it was so much fun.
It stresses me out though. I don't like putting that much pressure on the bricks.
Right, right. And then I've got another workshop that we're setting up the same place, local bricks and minifigs, for this coming summer. So
Cool.
just chance to keep people interested in the building and give them some opportunities to come up with thinking outside the block. How else can you use this piece? And that's the biggest thing is.
So I ran this workshop once, and I had I'd stripped out all the modern Lego, and I'd kind of recreated what we had in the 80s,
Okay.
like just simple classic vintage Lego, if you like. And so I was running these workshops, and this young kid comes into me, and he's like, "I don't know how to use this. This is old school Lego. Where's all the new stuff?" And I was like, "You've played Minecraft, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Minecraft," and he's like, but he couldn't make that distinction because he was a digital native, right? And like these kids are all digital natives, but they seem to lack the analog skills that we were taught. And I find that Legos are great to be able to create that connection in and to
Give you the
reconnect people
crossover
with
that
stuff
way.
that's practical. I think it's a fantastic tool. So what are you currently working on, and what future projects, like what's your next big your next big thing?
Well, I've just this past week submitted a proposal to an international company. And so I'm waiting to hear back about that to see if that project's a go.
Fantastic. How
Yeah.
exciting.
So that's kind of I was doing other things, procrastinating getting that sent in, but I had to get that sent in last week, so that's done.
Yeah.
I've got a fundraiser that my brother and Philip and Maria, who are also from season 2, who live 30 minutes away from me, apparently.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
We're participating again in a fundraiser for a local high school music program.
Awesome. Nice.
And
That's
they
really
do
cool.
it's brick based, they do it's brick jam in case anybody wants to look it up. And
Well, it's funny you mentioned music, because music is another one of those art forms which is iterative and non-destructive, and it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and it's like this little play. I think, and it's funny the comparison conversations I can have with musicians about Lego when they have about music. It's
right.
it's I like how the art forms kind of intermingle, and how they're quite similar but yet very different.
Right. I had gotten the grand piano as a gift at one point, and my son, who is 30 something, he says, you need to wait and build it with me. He is a sound engineer by training. That's not what he's working on right now, but he does other music stuff. And he's very, very musically inclined, and he wanted to participate in putting that grand piano together. And he was just encapsulated, just enthralled by all the different usages and what the parts were and things like that. So that was a fun experience for us to be able to do together.
So obviously we're talking about how Lego has evolved over the years. Where do you think the future of Lego is? I mean, at the moment, part of me is a little disappointed that some of the sets are so good, because there's sets that I will never pull apart. and they're going to sit on my shelf as sets. And it's like, that's not the purpose of Lego. The idea of Lego is to build your own things. So I'm kind of torn. Like,
yeah, I have a few of those. I've got some that are still in the boxes over here. Just a few.
Yeah, I've got a bit of a
we
stack
won't
to
go.
work
We
around as
won't count
well.
them.
No,
But
waiting for a rainy day.
yeah, right now I am more into not buying the sets. I mean, I buy sets, but I will place an order for parts because I see the potential for parts.
Right, yeah.
You know, and I will see something online and I will not even have it in my hand and say, oh, that would be great for blah, blah, blah. You know, and that's what happened when
You're
I
very much a
created.
seed piece kind of builder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Like,
that's another thing
I
we've been doing.
spent a couple of years writing for the Brothers Brick, and one of the
Okay.
other authors taught me to look for the seed piece. Because, you look at some of these amazing builds, and then, so what I ended up being able to do is, like, I'd write to someone and say, hey, was this the seed piece? And they're like, yes, how did you know? I'm like, I could see it's built all around it. It just looks like that was everything fits in perfect with that piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, so that's, in fact, this is Lego. Beautiful. And it is the Doctor Strange cape.
It is too. Haha. Yeah. That's very cool. How many have you got there? How many Strange capes are in there? Wow.
And I saw the one, I never had the set. I never had a set that had it, but I ordered 8 of these because I knew exactly, I wasn't sure how it was going together because it's rigid.
Yeah, you knew that it would look beautiful.
It has to be a pedal. It has to make a poppy.
That's going to come out in the next Lego set, the Lego Botanical set you watch. They'll steal that idea.
So I've got a couple, and I've had them posted online, and I think I've had Lego comment on the picture and all that. So,
fantastic! Tell you what, I'm really into at the moment. These things, the little box races.
Yes,
they come with a ramp, but I'm quite pleased with my own one.
Oh yes,
I had to make a Blacktron one. And now I've decided I'm going to make a classic space one, and it's just they're little boxcar races are fun,
right?
But the ramp that they come on is only about that long, and I really want to get an extension and do it so that goes from the floor.
Yeah,
I saw that. That's the bananas, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, I saw that online. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's another piece that I saw the piece and I knew exactly what it needed to be. You know. Yeah. I let the bricks talk to me, and so that's what it told me it needed to be.
Yeah, no, I hear that. It's there's nothing quite like getting a piece and going, oh, you know what? If I had a bunch of those, it would look just like it. And the next minute, you've got a bunch of them and you've created it.
Yes.
Yeah, I like doodles. I like when you sit there with just a random brick. I had a friend of mine. Grant Masters, he's a New Zealand builder, and he does really cool micro builds, like really, really tiny ones. But I found out from him in a conversation that he has this little brick nook halfway in his house. So as he's walking from the kitchen to the lounge or wherever, he happens to walk past this brick nook, and so he sits there and he does a little doodle, and so that's how he just continues to. It's like part of his day, and he keeps coming up with, and I keep seeing these amazing things. I'm so inspired. I'm like, I've got to get myself a brick nook.
Right. Well,
sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, that is a good idea. Or I'll be sorting parts, and I'll start squirrel. It's
yeah. Ooh, I was looking for that. I found this now, and I reckon that could be a.
Yeah, and I start putting parts together, even if they're all the same part. I'm putting these together in a different way, and I'm like, oh, well, so much for sorting. But then I go down and start building something with it.
I think that's what I love the most about Lego is it's just that, like, my kids come to me and they say, I'm bored. I'm like, good. And they're like, what do you mean good? I'm like, well, it's the only time you get inspiration of your own. Otherwise, you're just, you're reading a book or you're watching telly or someone else is kind of feeding you information. If you sit for long enough and get bored, then you get inspired. And sitting with a pile of Lego bricks and just sifting and getting bored and going, wow, perfect. And then it's the greatest feeling, because that pure inspiration just come from somewhere else inside you or something. And it's just, magic. It feels magic. I'm a mad fan of Lego, obviously. So would you consider returning to Lego Masters? Would you, if they asked you back, would you do it again?
In a heartbeat.
I know, right? Me too.
In fact, when
Despite all the pain and torture and, you know.
Right. When Jack and I were eliminated and we go through your final interview with the producer and they ask, on-screen interview and all that, and we get done with that, and I turned to the producer and I said, if you want to bring back an eliminated team at some point, I was even thinking about that season even, yeah, it's like, we'd be more than happy. And Jack's like, yes, so we both commented that, we would both be more than happy to come back for like a redemption season.
Mm-hmm.
We were eliminated rather early in our season and didn't really get the opportunity to show what we can do. So I have to do it virtually now. But there's so much more I feel that we have to give in that respect. And the camaraderie of all of the contestants that we had. I know it's a competition, but we were just enthralled by what everybody else was building, and it was just so exciting to be in that same room with those people and to be able to do it again, even with the pressure. It's just...
How would you think it would work if you removed the competition? Do you think it would work?
There's always going to be competition. Even when you go to a convention, there's competition.
Forget about it. Even at an auction, there's competition.
Yeah, so there's still going to be competition. On our season, they tried to make the contestants be, we're going to take you down kind of a thing, and they couldn't do it with a straight face.
Yeah.
Because they admired the other builders so much. And it was just such a wonderful thing.
What I noticed about our season is that there was quite a lot of interaction between the contestants over tables, and like in the brick pit, they would be like, oh, have you got this piece? Oh, where can I find this? And so there'd be a lot of assistance. And then, even at lunch breaks and stuff, you'd be sitting, and dinner, you'd be talking about things and you'd be helping each other solve problems. And so it was, the competition part was really difficult because it was incredibly collaborative, but I did notice that as the eliminations happened, it did get more and more competitive as certain more playful people were removed from the game.
Right.
That was difficult to cope with because I wanted to win, but I was more interested in playing Lego with my friend on tally. I really, that's all I wanted to do. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to I wanted my kids to see me doing something that I love.
Yes, that was
through a medium that they understand.
Yeah, and we had the same where we were very collaborative in things that we did. At one point, one of the contestants ran by another who was coming back from the brick pit, had grabbed something, put it on their desk, and says, "You need to put these on there." And it worked. Wonderful. It was a perfect addition.
I've just been thinking, I reckon you could do that. Yeah.
Perfect. No, it was something very simple.
But that's the beauty of it, though, is being in a room with some incredibly, incredibly talented, creative minds, is that they are genius in their own way, and there are certain ways of looking at the world that only they have. Mm-hmm. And, without that insight, without that pile of bricks on the table, it would be a completely different thing. And that's what I really love about it, is that even though it is something you create with your partner, ultimately, like, there was one episode, I think, 3 out of the 6 of us had built something with tentacles. And I think it was just because someone must have said tentacle over that side of the room and someone overheard it and just kind of, but that's the area you're in,
Right, yeah. And it's not like you were trying to copy anything.
No,
it's basically...
No. It's cross-pollination.
You're immersed in the whole situation, and it just you don't know where you got the inspiration from, but you all got the same inspiration. Yeah.
I think that was the beauty. That's what I really love about it is, and that was the difficult part, is coming home and trying to recreate that. I felt a little guilty because it's like, yeah, you're a Lego master. It's like, yeah, I'm a Lego master. If I've got Dan by my side, and if I've got a team of people running around with cameras, and I've got a group of people that are outside sorting and organizing the bricks into beautiful colored boxes and stuff, I get home, I'm not a Lego master. I'm just some idiot with a pile of Lego everywhere trying to make a mess.
Right. Trying to wade through this mess.
And so I kind of feel like, yes, we were just the ones that were in front of the camera. The real team, like, I think of one of my mates, JP, he was one of the three guys that were working behind the scenes to create the art that was going on to the show, right? They were Lego masters in their own right. And then each of the camera people that, without really knowing, were still giving feedback about your builds while they were doing it, that they were, it was such a collaborative effort, the whole thing, right? That it's difficult to claim. I don't know. I found a bit of an imposter syndrome when I came back, is that I couldn't claim that I was that person, because that was a special case. It was a special environment and a special group of people.
Right. Yeah. We had that unique opportunity to participate in that, and
Yes.
and nothing will ever compare to it.
Sadly, no.
Yeah, but like I said, I would in a heartbeat, I would go back to be able to build something like that with my brother again.
The number of the times that I reminisce and sit there and feel what it's like for the roller doors to open for the first time, and like the smoke, and then and then there's the tables, and there's the host, and there's the bricks, and you're just like,
yes,
unbelievable. Like,
yes,
yeah,
when we first
I've
walked
won the
in,
golden ticket.
exactly. When we first walked in, or before we first walked in, Jack told me, he says, "You can hit me to make sure I'm awake, or pinch me or whatever."
Pinch me.
I
Yeah.
loved him. I was like, "We are really here." So it's the only chance I got to hit my brother in a long time.
So we've asked that question. So a couple more questions. If you could build anything at all, if you had like the brick pit again, and you had all the brick cleaners and the sorters and what would you build? If you had gloves are off, you could build anything?
And I was thinking about that, and I had something in my brain, and I don't know what it is, but it would be something spectacular. I've got a couple different ideas that may or may not work, so I don't know, but I would like something that makes people stop and back up and look at it again. And that's I've got a couple things that I've done, and I'm working on something that's going to be huge for Chicago, and I'm hoping it does that.
Okay.
So,
I
never give preliminary looks at things that I do for Chicago. I might give a sneak peek, but I don't do a whole lot of things. Make their debut in Chicago.
One of the ideas that I've got in my head, and I will execute it one day, is I want to have at a Lego show, I want to have kind of like Disneyland, but Lego. So there's a monorail, and it goes from classic space through to pirate land, through to castle land, and but it's like a giant big theme park of Lego, but it's like Lego throughout the ages and throughout the journey of Lego of
that's
a
wonderful.
builder
Yeah.
of an asphalt. But every time I think about it, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and I'm thinking I'm going to need more and more trestle tables. But I've just received some more monorail track, which needs to be tidied up because it's got the brown color on it. But so I've now got 2 monorail sets, so I can do a large, so the monorail could go and have stations at Pirate Cove and at the, and I would like a big main street which has the modulars along the side of it, as a parade, like the old Disney parade. Do you remember the light parade they used to have? I don't know. I've got this image in my head about the ultimate Legoland theme park. Because I think you could tell so many stories about the screaming kids not wanting to go from the rides, or exiting through the gift shop, and all those little wonderful cliches. It would be so beautiful.
That'd be
a
awesome.
little a classic Space Mountain or something.
I'd
probably stay away from the roller coasters though, because that's one thing I experienced on the show that I haven't gone back to. Is at the first episode of our season, we struggled with a roller coaster for hours and hours, and it's something that despite how badly I did, I haven't really wanted to go back and prove myself with it yet.
Yeah, there's some things that's I just
maybe I could put the roller coaster as part of this giant theme park one day.
You can always add it later, tweak it in after the fact.
So what was the funniest or most unexpected thing you've happened while playing Lego?
Wasn't funny, but there was. I can laugh about it now. When I did my sunflower mosaic for the art museum several years ago, I was also going to submit a second piece, which was about 2/3 the size of that. And it was going to be a giant dahlia, zinnia type flower. It was going to be huge.
Yeah.
And I get all things ready, and I thought, well, I got the lumber ready to build the cases for it. I set it up. I'm not sure. And all of a sudden, it just sheared right off. And that was my expression.
Yeah,
I was
very
like,
much.
I was dumbfounded. I'm just
Waiting for the camera crew to come around and like.
So I basically left the pile there on the floor, walked out, closed the door, and I didn't go back in that room for 2 weeks. Because I just couldn't. It was like, well, it obviously is not going to ship to Texas. And that's where, the internal stability thing could have come into play a little bit more, but it was just like, I really had expected. It was fine, but I moved it. I mean, I had already had it sitting up, and I moved it or I did something, and I looked at it cross-eyed. I don't know what I did, but it just sheared off.
Done it wrong.
Yeah, and like I said, it took me 2 weeks before I went back into that room. And I did rebuild it. It didn't go to Texas. I did rebuild it, and I took it to Chicago that next summer. Or that summer.
As long as you rebuilt it.
Yeah, so it's like, I knew I could build it. It's just, but it was not going to go anywhere that I could not handle it myself and set it up.
I feel that pain.
So it was, that was really hard. And I was really happy with how it looked. I used some techniques that I'd never done before, and it did not fare well. It is no longer, it's not traveling. It's taken apart. So now I have thousands of 2x4 vibrant coral tiles.
I'm sure you can come up with something to do with those tiles. That's vibrant coral is a bit of a color, though, isn't it?
Yes, there's not a whole lot of pieces in vibrant coral.
Make a giant Patrick star.
Right.
Okay, one more question, and then I'll let you go. Is there a Lego set from your childhood or a build that you remember fondly that you wish you still had, or maybe you still have?
Well, like I said, I don't remember sets growing up. We had the classic
just
brick
a pile
boxes.
of bricks.
Yeah, we would have a classic brick boxes. So it's one of those that's like, I really, and I didn't get back into my personal Lego journey aside from the kids and things like that until after Elves was done. So elves were always a big thing that if I could find some elves, that was wonderful. And partially probably because of the bright colors.
Yeah.
I'm drawn to the bright colors.
Very nice.
So they use that. But other than that, I can't recall of any specific sets we owned. I know at one point my mom had a set, and I think it was from when my kids were young. We found, after my parents passed away, we found Lego in their cupboards. But they were not as old as I am. So they're not, they were more of the age range from when my kids were young. So he probably had it for when the kids came over, grandkids came over. But I have that and the box for it. But other than that, there's nothing that I have to have. It's like I don't really even have a white whale except for some of the newer, older modulars. But other than that, I don't.
No, thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today.
This has been wonderful. I'm hoping you will make it to Chicago in the summer, our summer, your winter.
Well, that is definitely the plan. When I win Lotto.
There you go. Yeah,
okay. There's some funding options available for artists that are exploring the world and getting mentored by other artists.
Oh, okay.
Through some New Zealand funding thing, which I'm looking at applying for. So you never know your luck.
No, exactly.
There's another, in the beginning of June, there's an Australian show in Sydney that I've been invited to. The ultimate would be to go from here to Sydney to Chicago and then back. And if I could get that, so that's the ultimate goal.
Right,
I'll see what we can do. But no, if not this year, I'm definitely going to make it to America because, like, the scale of things. I mean, I was in America when I was 18, and I couldn't get over how big the place was. Like the streets, the cars, the buildings, everything's just like monstrous. But then you see the Lego shows and you see the Lego builds. It's like, wow, like those things are taller than most people.
Yes, there's some huge things, there's some crazy things.
And New Zealand, while we have an amazing collection of very, very talented builders, there's not the volume of builders. And a lot of the new builders are building sets, which is how we all started.
Right.
But the caliber of mockers, I guess, is just insane over in the States.
Oh, yeah. I am at all. I mean, especially Chicago, because it is the biggest one in the United States.
How many people do you have attending Chicago each year?
Pardon me?
How many people attend Chicago?
I don't know the numbers. I know that, and I don't know the metric conversion, but it's like 100,000 square feet of display space.
Wow, 100,000 square feet.
So it's huge, you know,
monstrous.
and it's like we get more builders and more builders. We had, was it 1,000 or 2,000 builders? I can't remember the number last year, but it was crazy. You
Either
know?
way, that's a massive number. That's an amazing number.
Yeah, so it's
I very much hope to meet you guys in future.
yes.
I think most of the people aren't going to know who I am, but all the Lego Masters are going to know.
Yeah, I mean, Fleur from Australia came over a couple years ago, so that was wonderful. You know, and like when I was in Australia, you know, I went to Brickvention, and the Lego Masters are really the only people that knew who I was.
Well,
so it's like,
what I find amazing is seeing the photos of these shows and going, hang on a minute, I've seen that person, but from another country, and you see everybody getting on like a house on fire. It's
right,
you know,
right,
wonderful. Yeah. There's something very special about the Lego community.
There is.
You know, they're very, very open. They're very quirky. They're very, very creative, and 9 times out of 10, they're very, very intelligent and very empathetic. Like they've usually got a lot of empathy for people.
Right. Definitely.
It's a gorgeous community of people, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. And
yeah, it's a wonderful
Lego master in this community. Oh my god, it's like being a rock star.
Oh, that's funny. Rock star. Yeah, when I go to things around locally, like nobody really knows that I was on TV, and that's fine. It doesn't matter, you know.
Oh yeah, no.
Unless I am in a very Lego centric opportunity, you know, and then it's you know, and if I'm wearing my jacket, my vest.
I usually get recognized if I'm wearing my hat, which is around somewhere, or if I'm in a Lego aisle, because I usually go and look in Lego aisles, and then there'll be a kid look up and go, and they'll do the double take.
Right. Yeah, well, see, and for me, I mean, I go to the Lego aisle every time I go to the store, and
always, yeah.
Nobody will recognize me, which is fine.
I would recognize you. I would. Yeah. I'd be sitting there. I'd be getting stuff from the top shelf.
Right.
All right. Hey, thank you very much for your time, Dawn. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you, and I definitely want to get you back on at some stage in the future. I've got a lot of Lego Masters to interview, and
oh, that's wonderful.
I don't know. I'm really like the feedback I've got from everybody so far is that it's a lot of fun, and if we can manage to inspire the next generation of Lego Masters to pick up the bricks and, you know, get on and rebuild themselves from whatever situation they're in, then we're doing the right thing, I feel.
Oh, definitely. I figure we all have our own journey, and we're all in our special spot on that journey, but somehow Lego just kind of connects us all. And I know that sounds corny, but
I know it's the clutch power, mate.
It is. We've determined that when they ask what is a group of Lego Masters, you know, like you've got a gaggle of geese.
Yeah.
You have a clutch of Lego Masters.
Clutch of Lego Masters. I like that. I like that a lot. I'm going to steal that one. All right. Thank you very much, Dawn. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Jono.
Seeing you next time. Until then,
yes, it's been fun.
Oh,
definitely.